Van Dyke.
Yeah, it's my son's computer, and he gave it to me, and that's his nickname online. So I got stuck with it.
This is what I did
Unlikely
yesterday.
story.
Yeah.
So that was my daughter, and then these are all friends of mine that had babies around the same time.
Well, that's
And which
state.
is yours?
There's nothing to do with
The
it.
blonde?
The state had to come and do
Oh
it.
my God.
Well, there, I think we're live and it's 3:30 on my watch, so take it away, Fred.
3:30 daylight time, work heat, 2022. Thank County Solid Waste Management Board of order. John, has the open meeting statement been properly distributed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Phone call says, shows we have a quorum. Need to review and approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda?
A second, one second.
Anybody know anything with quorum? One. All in favor? Opposed? Agenda's approved, similar to the approval of minutes of previous meeting, January 10th. Moved by Joyce Blair,
Second.
second by Nancy. Go Nancy. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Our minutes are approved. We'll hear for public comment. John, any correspondence from public?
I have none.
Okay. Okay, we'll go over the preliminary budget.
All right, Taylor, I might need some help here. I gotta share my screen, but first I gotta pull up that. Put it here. I'm gonna share my screen.
So I would like minimize this side thing first, like, so it's bigger. And I think under more. Select.
All right. If that's actually doing it or not.
It says.
Well, then, I got my screen shared. So what
I
I'm
got
gonna do. Is it showing on you guys's?
It is on mine, yes.
I'm
Okay,
good too.
all right, so I'll just kind of walk through this budget to actual report. Yeah, if anybody didn't get one of those, I've got a handouts here, sorry, slacking. So I'll just kind of roll through this, and I highlighted a couple things on there just to point out, but you can peruse it at your leisure, and if you have any questions, you can get back to me always. So the first thing on page 1 of 5 there, I circled this 115,049. That is what we brought in over budget on our revenue side of the tipping floor at for the tipping fees at the PTF. So we brought in 115,000 more than we had budgeted for, which is great.
Compared to other years.
Well, last year we were at 607, so we're actually down just a tad from last year, 7,000. So, well, that's fine. We also are over on our expenses. So, but I'll get to that. So the next thing that I circled was at the bottom, and I don't know if you want to talk on that a little bit, Taylor, was the 56,587. That's what we brought in over what we budgeted for the sale of recyclables. You want to talk about your recycling budget a little bit?
Yeah, so 2020 was like very dismal. I think, yeah, we made 29,000 or almost 29,500. So for 2021, I budgeted very conservatively, and then the markets blew up. So we did really great. I think, yeah, it says here we made 73,000 on recyclable materials. So yeah, the revenues were great. And so far for 2022, we saw a little bit of a drop, but they're staying at a pretty decent price.
Oh, I'll switch to the next page, page 2 there. So yeah, we're just continuing on with the sale of materials there. We did okay in scrap metal and whatnot. We brought in 28,000. We always budget kind of conservative on that because you never really know. But we were 18,000 over what we had budgeted, so that helps. And then kind of towards the bottom, I circled a couple things. If you notice the first, this is a solid waste side, our personnel costs. So if you look at that, you see we're 104%, so we're 13,000 something over for our personnel costs on the solid waste side. But I circled the big contributor there is what happened here is probably one of our employees took health insurance that didn't have it before. So that's something that happens after the budget. So there's a chunk right there. That's where that came from. So then the next, the downer here for our budget is always our contracted services. And so this is most of what's paid out of there is our landfill tipping fees and our hauling. And there's a few other things that get thrown into that pot too, but this is that line that we increased in our budget for 2022 by 80,000 to try and get a little closer to reality. And so we are 210,000 over what we had budgeted for 2021. Subtracted from that, but we're still over. But there's a few things more that contribute to that as we go down that I'll talk about here. So it isn't, we don't feel the whole impact of that at the bottom line. All right, I'll move to the next page here. So page 3 of 5. I just underlined a few things to kind of show where we were at for the totals on the contracted services lines. So, and if you notice, we're actually a little higher this year than last year, which makes sense because our shipping costs go up and our landfill tipping fees go up and everything every year, seems like. So then the next middle section there is the recycling side. Or no, wait, we're still in the supplies. So there's nothing really jumps out there. We did okay on pretty much everything in that category there. We spent a little more on maintenance than I would have liked this year, but that was mostly our loader, which we'll talk about later in the agenda. And then so the other thing I circled there, that budget amendment of $9,215, that was when we had to replace those loader tires. We got a budget amendment through finance to buy the solid tires. So that's where that money came from. So then at the bottom of that page is the start of the recycling personnel side. So I'll just go to the next page here. 4 or 5. Nothing really jumps out there. Taylor's budget looked pretty good all the way through here. So I guess the next part I wanted to point out, it just makes the most sense. You look at the bottom of page 5 of 5. They have it listed a couple times here, but I just circled it on the bottom there so you can kind of walk through and see what those the bottom line numbers, our revenues and expenses all gathered up together. That 31,000 is what we were over our projected budget for the year after our increased revenues, increased costs, 31,000 is what we were over this year, which is actually better than I kind of expected. Like I say, we increased our contracted services by 80,000 for next year. So hopefully we'll cover well this next year. But that's the bottom line, was we were 31,000 over budget so far. That was all. I think pretty much all the numbers are in there is what Heidi's saying. There's still maybe a few little things that are transferred back and forth, or a couple bills trickling in, but that should be pretty much the end of that stuff. The next page is kind of confusing, and it's explained better on the following page. So we'll flip a couple pages here. So you should be looking at the 2021 capital improvement project listing page, budget to actual. I just explained a couple things there. That first line was a vehicle replacement and a truck scale. Both of those projects came in under budget. We got the vehicle replacement was our skid steer. That came in quick and under budget. We were real good with that. And same with the scale kiosk, that project came in right about where we expected it. So I was curious as to why we were showing that we went over budget on that. And I talked to finance, and in order for them to make their books work, because we traded in a piece of equipment, they take the value of our old skid steer and count that against our costs here, so that it's accounted for somewhere that the county lost assets. You know, basically we gained because we paid less for the skid steer, but that's how they account for that. It doesn't make sense to me, but it looks like we're over, but we weren't. We were actually significantly under on that. So whatever, that's how they account for it. And then the Hass Waste Building Addition, we're a little further along on that. We just made our last payment to Muck Construction. I think we got that's on the agenda here, wasn't it? No, I don't. Oh, under Joe's report, we're probably gonna have you talk about that a little bit, but Joe can talk about where the building's at and everything. So that is about it for the budget to action. So any questions now, or?
So if we're over budget, it's that 32,031 something. How do you swallow
That is the fortunate thing as far as the county as a whole is a lot of us, like Parks was way under budget for the year. So in the big picture, you know, the county came in well. This is one of the budgets that went over.
that? You have no control. You know, I
Right.
totally understand.
Yeah.
But I'm just so you're not getting a black mark.
Well, it is a black mark. I
It's a
don't,
black mark. You can't control what's coming to you.
but it is. It is. We went over budget. Nobody wants that, and but
So then you have to over budget in the future, so you don't ever not make it.
Come on ahead.
And so then you gotta ask for more money up front.
well, exactly, and there's so many things that go into it. So
On the salary here, on the county-wide recycling personal services, how many people is that for?
now it's mostly Taylor, and then I think there's a slice of someone else on there
Probably
too.
Christie in the office.
Yeah, it might be a little portion
I
of
can tell you,
Christie's.
it's not just me.
Right,
Okay,
yeah.
that's not just one, okay,
Right.
I did think it
Yeah.
would be just one.
Yeah, so a lot of our positions are percentages, like I'm 1/3 solid waste, I think 1/3 parks, maybe it's even more than that. I think mine maybe not.
You're probably half and half, because it used to be.
Yeah, I don't think I'm taken out of the recycling one anymore, but so everybody's positions
So
are,
recycling is separate from solid waste.
yes.
Okay, so there's 3 spots.
Okay, and so solid waste, how many employees is that for?
Well, that is,
I wonder if part of Karen comes out. of
I
this
bet.
Too.
my
The
old
scale
position
attendant probably
is-
comes out of both.
Out of,
And then Frank is probably solid waste, Joe, solid waste, John, part of Christie.
Yeah, so, you know, how many folks you got up there, Joe? You got that are county?
3.
Well, there's
Well, there will be 4.
4. Yeah, there will be 4 positions up there, and all of them take at least some out of solid waste, most out of solid waste. And then myself and Christie are partly out of that. So it's
Like 6.
you know,
6 out of that and like a couple out of this one.
Mhm.
roughly, yeah. I mean, I could get you the
Some are-
exact
I think we went,
divisions and stuff, but
I think we went over that when we did the budget last year.
sure. But
And next year that'll probably go up because when I was on leave, I didn't get paid like fully.
Oh,
I took some unpaid days.
yeah,
The solid waste might go down because Christie's been here so long and she's leaving.
well, we're gonna take a hit this year on the salaries, well, because she gets all of her sick time paid out and all that stuff, and we're hoping for a 2-month overlap on that, so we'll have
Didn't we have to pay Tom out of 2022 too? Or was that 2021?
I think well, it might be out of
So we might
2022,
have
so,
2 people.
yeah, because, so it's gonna be, again,
Yeah,
you know,
90
That's a
days.
big hit, so.
and you can't really,
No,
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 you know,
yeah.
budget for that, because you set the budget in July or whatever, you know, someone retires the next June, you know, it's like.
finance understands it.
Yeah, yeah, and so we don't touch those numbers, anything in those personnel numbers. We can suggest, you know, like if we're running over on our overtime, we can suggest, hey, we'd like a little more put into the overtime budget, or we can, if we have seasonal workers on the park side, we can put a little extra money towards seasonal workers, that kind of thing, but all the other stuff is controlled by HR.
When you look at, it'll be in the 30,000 hour, it doesn't mean it. But how can you budget better next year so that you don't have to do that way again?
Well, and that's what we did. We had that big discussion. We increased our ask on the contracted services side of solid waste, because that's where we're getting it in the
That's
short.
where you're getting data. right?
Yeah, so, we asked for more money to cover that. And if this budget had that extra money in it, we would have been 50,000 under, you know, so.
Okay.
So we
But
should
then,
be.
Joe, how are you gonna overcompensate for retirements for this year? Same kind of thing.
There's no way to.
Yeah, you know, and
I guess we do.
in theory, it should all kind of work out, because like usually if you don't have a bunch of people leaving at the same time, someone will leave. There may be a gap in there, and then theoretically, you're hiring someone at a lower rate, you know, so it should balance out a little bit, you know, but sometimes it don't. Like if we're like Taylor was saying, if we're paying for all Tom's time and Christie's time this year, you know, it's gonna hit our budget, so.
And then vacation time, the new ones coming in won't have as much.
Right,
So
yeah, so
there's
we'll
some
get more.
savings, but probably not as much as you're gonna pay out,
Yep.
because they were long-term employees.
And the vacation is figured in there. It's just a matter of, we'll have actually more bodies on the job, you know, for a while, because there's new people, right? They don't have as much time off. So technically you have more people to work with because they're there, you know, so it's
We're good, sir.
how you deal with it, I guess. So that's the budget to actual thing. What is the next thing on here? Loader repairs. Let me just scan down to that. I think I got this on the same sheet here. Yeah, there we go. So.
Motor repairs.
Okay. I threw this on there just so we could talk about, you know, it's not budget time yet.
Marion, it's on the back.
It's on the last page of this handout that I gave you. I just kind of wanted to, you know, we've been getting a lot frustrated with our loader, their telehandler thing we got there, that Bobcat deal. It's been what I would call a lemon. since we got it, you know, and it had a relatively short warranty, so it's been on us pretty much this whole time. And I didn't include on this list those tires that we replaced, because that wasn't really of the equipment. The loader is a problem. It was, yeah, you know, we tried these filled tires, what was that, not gel, foam filled tires, what they call it. They didn't hold up like we were expecting. They kind of pulverized themselves on the inside, and then pretty soon you had flat tires. The tires don't have air in them, so it's not good. So we went back to what we know works, and that was at $9,000 some that we bought those Setco tires, the solid rubber tires, so that they can't go flat. They're bulletproof. So
That's a rough ride.
it is a rough ride, but these ones have, I mean, I guess I can't speak for it entirely, but these ones have holes in them, so it has a little bit of give. It isn't the solid tires, but it is definitely rougher than rubber or the foam fill.
Did you put anything in this year's budget to replace that?
No, actually, we were hoping to do something with this thing, you know, but we fix it and then we're like, well, now this thing's good, right? You know, we got these problems. Well,
And something else is.
well, and it's the same thing coming up again, you know, like right now, it was in there for leaking hoses again inside the boom of the thing where you can't get to them. So they got to actually take the boom apart. You know, they got to actually use like forklifts and a crane or something to get it apart, and then get in there and they replace all the steel lines and the hoses. And then, what was it, a couple months later, it's leaking again. So we're supposed to get that thing back tomorrow from fixing the hoses inside the boom again. Now they keep saying, oh yeah, you guys must have got something in there, you know, like a board or something, and it was rubbing on the lines and wrecking the lines in there. It's like, well, there's no way for something to get in there.
They gotta pull it apart to fix it, so.
Exactly, you know, there's not a 2x4 sneaking past it, you know.
Inside the
How-
CFP.
How long was the warranty?
The warranty was a 3-year, but that
So-
only covered certain things.
I mean, the first thing that the repair was 6 months after we got it, right?
Well, we got it in 2018,
Oh, okay,
So-
all right.
yeah, but
But the hoses had to be replaced in July of last year and August of last year. That's not very long at all.
no.
And it's in there right now.
Is there, John, is there an alternative, a different brand or dealer?
Well, definitely. That's you know, the one thing we're absolutely sure of is our next loader will not be a Bobcat. You know, we've never had problems with any of their equipment in the past. Their skid steers,
The skid steers are awesome.
yeah, we've had them forever now and never had a problem. This particular piece of equipment is a lemon.
Doesn't Stevens Point have that? Is that where you, Mosinee has, and have they had problems or?
Oh, you're saying the piece of equipment? They didn't have the Bobcat though, I don't think.
Portage County has JCB.
Yeah,
So we just bid it out as that piece of equipment and
well, they sell
Bobcat bid
Bobcat.
on it.
But now, you know, one of the things we've seen these guys mentioned it when we first bought this thing was, you know, the hoses, all those lines that keep getting tore up and leaking are inside the boom. And they're like, well, that's kind of weird, you know, but the flip side of that is like, well, these are protected, you know, it's like when you're running an excavator or something every now and then you might snag a hose because all those hoses are on the outside of your arm, right? You know, if you bash it into a tree or something, you might break a hose. Well, being inside the boom, it's protected. You can't break it, right? Well, the bad side is when that hose leaks, you can't get to it, you know, and so we would not buy one with the hoses on the inside again.
You can't fix it yourself, that's the problem.
Well, exactly, you know, like if these hoses were on the outside, we could have took that hose off, took it down and got a new hose made. Highway makes them, you
You
know?
see it right away too.
Yeah, yeah. So
How much
Was
is
there
there
any
anyone?
kind of a warranty on this at the beginning?
what's that?
Any kind of a warranty?
There was a, a real bare bones warranty, that,
Years or something?
yeah, in the beginning, but, we're beyond that now.
So it's 4 years old, you got it 18, you said, right?
Yeah.
What are you expecting the life to be?
Well, we were hoping, what did we have that pushed out to? It was,
26?
yeah, so.
How many hours are on
I don't
it?
know.
I couldn't even tell you.
Because, in the past, we'd run loaders for damn near 10 years, and never had major problems.
But you're answering us to move it up, so you should.
Well, and we don't have to make a decision on that today because it don't matter until budget time. But what I'm thinking is Joe and I'll work together a little bit and figure out what we push around. But I think we need to get this thing
I
on.
think it needs to get on your next budget. I think you can.
Yeah, for
So right now, when
2023.
it's in being repaired, I'm assuming you're renting one or
No.
let you use one, or what are you doing?
Well,
Years ago, we built an extended bucket for our little skid steer, and we're just putting it into open top containers, and GFL's just pulling one little box at a time, just to keep us going. Because we can't call in highway, we can't rent a piece of equipment, because they come with air tires, with
Yeah.
pneumatic tires, air tires.
we were looking all over
cannot.
for one you could rent that didn't have air tires, because was it last year? When
Yeah.
we brought in the highway loader there, and thankfully highway was there because we were getting overrun. Brought in one of their loaders, but the stipulation was like, hey, if you wreck the tires, you're buying them,
That's what you buy.
and those are, a couple $1,000s a piece, those tires,
And we gotta buy 4.
yeah, we'd have to buy all 4 of them, so, it's pretty big. So you don't wanna rent one, if you don't have to, so.
Are you sure you can wait till next budget? Maybe you should approach.
Well, right now, it's been in Mosinee for 3 weeks. It's supposed to be coming back tomorrow. But it's coming back, it's not fixed yet. Because the pin they're looking for is 4 weeks out on delivery, the pin and bushing. Because you can literally take the bucket off in the rack that the bucket clamps to, you can lift it up and down.
So you're gonna use it the way they bring it
Gonna
back.
use it
and
the
then
way
they're
it
gonna come
is.
and put the pin in
And they
later.
can't get the pin up because somehow the pin is bent. And they have to have a company come in and blow it out.
Well, yeah, I would,
You better go ahead and sit down.
yeah, I would strongly urge you to do that.
How much is a new one?
Oh, it's gonna be mega bucks.
About 100,000, a little
Between
better,
90 and 100. That was-
without a trade.
It was 90 and
Stuff is gonna
100.
keep coming.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, it's,
Yeah.
You can't shut down and say, see you in a month when our equipment works.
Well, exactly, and that's, we've never had as unreliable a piece of equipment as this, and
I think there's more money than that wasted in the county. I think
Yeah.
that's here.
Yeah.
What's the defect right here? What's the problem right now? Is it leaking hose again or is it?
it was
Insides.
leaking hoses and now,
There's time for that.
right,
It's a month apart.
July.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and.
That's good. Good life out of
and
It's an underbuilt machine apparently for what its job is. That's what
Right.
you gotta look at.
And what Joe was talking about, the new problem now is it's at the end of the arm, so all the force goes right through the end of this arm, and there's a pin that runs through there that attaches to the bucket part. So the bushings that pin rides in have been worn out, so there's a lot of slop in them, and they think that pin is bent.
Yeah, the pin is about the size of your mug right there. And somehow that pin is bent,
Jeez.
which goes to, we were talking, goes to show that that's not very hard metal.
Yeah.
No.
So
would you trade this one in? Or what would you do with this one?
we'd probably have to sell it, because we're not trading it into a Bobcat dealer.
Do we have anything in our capital outlay budget coming up that we could put off, say somebody's truck or something like that?
Yeah, what do we got this
Well,
year?
right now,
I don't know what your capital outlay budget is for next. year.
right now, this year is, we were gonna do the office, the break room, a whole remodel. and put in an ADA door. And that was
about
60, because 39 or 36, the remodel was, yeah, you're about right. And then,
the heating and AC,
The
I think
heating
was
and
like
AC.
25,000, so.
Can you wait another year without it?
Yeah, that's the thing, we have to discuss options here, if we like take all those projects, kind of kick them back, can we,
This isn't gonna go away.
right, well, this is instrumental to our operation here, the office can stay the way it is. The door hasn't been ADA to this point, so.
Like the trees we did, that brothers.
John.
Everybody tell them.
When you bring this back over and over and over, what is their reaction? Is it like, oh, that
they
never
hate it. They hate
happens?
this machine more than we do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
For us to replace a hose, we have to take our wrenches, we gotta cut them, we gotta bend them because they don't fit. It is,
The story, move on and get rid of
I know. So, well, I guess, the idea that I'm getting here is see if we can do something this year, postpone some of this other stuff. Talk to
Whatever else you
Heidi,
can do,
right?
You're never blessing to do that.
So Joe and I will run with that, and see what we can do. Cause yeah, those other things can wait.
again, I think we just replaced the pump. So he said that's good. Furnace is good. AC still works. They put a little too big of a AC unit in when they put it in, because it cools it off too fast and then it doesn't run.
Yeah.
That should be a lot smaller, but it's been working for however many years, so it's fine. As for the remodel, that's,
Yep,
yeah,
yep.
Move ahead with vigor.
Well, they have to function appropriately. You're not able to do it.
with the loader, yes, everything.
Well, then I'll, when we go to sell this loader, I'll take back all the bad things I said about it. It's an awesome machine. Worth every penny we're asking.
Yeah, put it on the state surplus.
Oh, yeah, that's how it'd probably go.
You can't sell it to the city, he knows all about it.
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but you're just getting the back or when they get that purchase in out of it. Now, it's really up to the par. That's the time you wanna.
Right,
Yeah,
yep,
Everything's.
at least for another month.
yep.
Yeah, well, we said that about the hoses 3 times too.
Yeah, I know. So we just want to move on from this thing because it's a pile.
Okay,
So,
do it.
all right, thank you.
Staffing updates.
Staffing update. So I just had a few things here. One, I guess I'll give you a little background on it. Some of you may not know. It's been a little while since we met. We put out for applications for the operations specialist.
Yep.
Yeah. And we got 2, which is pretty sad for a full-time county job. Well, so we interviewed both those people. One of them wasn't a terribly good interview. The other one, we got kicked back from the FICO thing, the personality deal that the county has done on everybody. Dr. FICO told us we shouldn't move forward with that guy. So
I can see why.
we were back to 0. So we did a little creative talking with the HR and we're like, hey, we have this guy that we interviewed for the last open park caretaker position. He's a really good guy. He was just their number 2. We had another guy that was really good too. So it's like, can we talk to them, and say, hey, why don't you come in? And I thought it was pretty cool. We talked to this Piglow guy and had him come up to the PTF right after you guys closed. And Joe and I kind of gave him a little tour of the facility. It was really nice. And you walk through and you were kind of pointing at all the equipment you'd be dealing with. And, he's asking questions. We're asking him how familiar he is with this and that. So we got a real good feel for this guy, better than you would sitting in a room over here interviewing somebody. And when we were done, we're just like, hey, why don't you think about it? This is the pay scale we're in here. And yeah, he got back to us, said he was interested, but he wanted a little more money. went back and forth a little bit. We could only go so high because we already have our equipment operator up there was at a grade 3 or a grade 6, step 3. So we weren't gonna go above that. So we went to that point and said, hey, this is the best we can do. He was working over at Gusmer, still is. And he came back and said that he was interested. So he starts on the 21st, so next Monday. So we got somebody, you know, and I think he's a real good catch. His full name is Josh Peglow. His name sounds familiar. He's at Peglow family there. What's his dad's name? Jim Peglow.
I know his dad.
Yep.
Our maintenance guy over at Bethany was telling us people living in the houses to be kind of just not picking at them because they're down to 1 person on maintenance right now.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be 5. And they keep trying to get people in and.
Yep. Yeah, so we're lucky there. And then the other half of that is Christy, of course, is retiring in June. Tomorrow we are doing our interviews for that position. Fred, you'll be there.
Did you get more applications?
Yes, for that, I think we had 17, which is,
The office jobs seem to go higher.
yeah, and there was probably 5 or 6 internal ones. So I think we've got a real good pool to pick from there, and HR helped us out a couple of the ones we're gonna interview there, just because they know these people, they've seen them come in and interview for other jobs and stuff, so they have some real good insight on especially on some people, like maybe you should just pass on this one or whatever, you know. They're like, so we don't know these people, so especially internal candidates, things like that. They know all the details. So long story short, tomorrow we got interviews after county board, and hopefully we'll get a good one out of that. So
Joe's gonna bring us some pizza.
Joe's
For the interviews? I won't be there.
no,
Why not? No.
yeah, it'll be.
We'll get something. Andy, the place you got in that other time, I think they delivered it. You know, won't pay for it, so. We're thinking,
Yeah, I won't be there.
Well, we'll see if we can get a hold of
bring it
her.
up.
Yeah,
Never come again.
so,
Okay.
so that's the staffing updates.
Nine, board members, staff, seminars, conferences. We had the Wix Pharma conference and other 2 or 3 entities. I made it just to the board meeting in the morning. Taylor was there with me. I didn't make it to the end of the others because my ladies were there. Taylor and Joe were there for a couple different things, so. Got anything to say?
I would love to comment. They had a keynote speaker, Ken.
Yeah,
Name was Rob Greenfield, and he was from Ashland, Wisconsin. And he went to UW La Crosse. And then he became a dumpster diver and lived for a year on his own. And when I said dumpster diver, he said either I went to Aldi's or Piggly Wiggly at 3 in the afternoon and got my food to eat.
Yeah, I emailed John the link to his website, so you guys could see,
Let me set this back down.
just so to show them the pictures of like what he's collected out of the
You're
dumpsters.
gonna wanna read on that a little bit of it. She's got that out for you. It was impressive, but one of the real impressive things that I really picked up with there was the amount of garbage we produce in a day individually versus what he got down to. He got down to less than 2 pounds a day, wasn't it?
I think like even less than that,
It
it
was
was like
unbelievable.
hardly anything, yeah.
And the other thing, and then how much Americans, if you compare the amount of water we use in comparison to people from Africa, we were like 100 gallons a day and they were like 2 gallons. a day,
Yeah.
what they live on. You know, if you got some time, you can dig into this guy he really laid it out. Now, I'm not ready to go live out of the dumpster. But there's so much food being thrown away, and that was his main concern there, that this stuff could be going to people.
Yeah.
And it was really,
You just like keep
really
scrolling on
interesting.
it.
Yeah.
I'll let Taylor take over on that. She liked it too. There was other good workshops, so that was the one that.
If you just want to comment on some of these, Taylor, I don't know which ones.
Yeah, if you like keep going down, there's some more like,
Send that to us.
yeah, I can email out the link to his website and you can see some of his other projects, like Joe was talking about. He wore a suit, like a clear suit, and then he lived as the average American would for a month and saved all of his garbage and then wore it in this suit and like did demonstrations to show people like this is how much garbage you produce in the month. The average American produces 4.5 pounds of garbage every day. So this is just, bread that he collected. And he does these demonstrations where he will go to a certain city and then collect food and then put it out on display, just to show like all this edible food that was thrown out. And then after his demonstration is over, anyone that wants the food can take it. And I think every time it's gone by the end of that period. So that was really interesting. And then, there was just some other good workshops. One that I'll just share quickly. The DNR completed a waste characterization study, and they found that food waste was the largest component, which kind of ties into what Rob was talking about. At 14.5%, food that was spoiled or discarded without being eaten. So that was not inedible food scraps. That 14.5% was food that people didn't eat and it got bad, or that just was thrown away. And then the inedible food scraps were the third largest at 6%. So combined, the food waste makes up double the percentage found in a previous landfill study that was done in 2009. So the DNR is going to be doing some looking into that and figuring out how to address that problem, and hopefully coming up with some tools to pass on to us to share with our residents as well. And then the other thing, I got to tour Green Bay Packaging, which is where our cardboard goes to get processed for the most part. So that was interesting. You got to see it getting brought into their facility, and we walked all the way through the entire process to the finished product. So that was
Taylor, is
neat.
that the brand new building?
Yes,
Oh,
yes, it's very, very fancy. I mean, like the offices and stuff. Pretty cool.
So back to Rob Greenfield, I'm sure if you Googled his name, because he's the keynote speaker, you'll get everything you want.
Yeah, his
When
website.
I want to
has
find out
really
anything, I
cool.
Google somebody's name or whatever news I want to hear, and I get everything.
Wow.
It would be good to get more input on that. The studies I've seen in the past, we've had speakers like that in the past too, I believe, that the major problem though, especially for refrigerated items, as soon as they hit above 45 degrees, that's when the state health departments and the county health departments and all that would have all kinds of nasty things to say about what happens to that food once it leaves the store. It'd be a real difficult thing to try to hook people up with that kind of food because of the health implications of it. So it would you'd have to get together with the individual stores, and that's where it always seems to run into a snag. But it's great for education purposes. I like the idea of it.
Said he was never arrested once.
Yeah.
He got caught once or twice, but he never was arrested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ken too, just to go off of that, because he's donating the food, he's covered under the Good Samaritan Act or whatever. So if you donate food and if someone gets ill from it, that law protects you from being sued, I believe.
Okay.
It's probably mostly expired food in the dumpster from the stores.
Not necessarily, a lot of produce, if it just doesn't look right. I mean, John was saying he used to work in a produce section of a grocery store, and if something's misshapen, it gets tossed. And it's a lot of times, Rob was saying too, that it's areas of more middle class to upper class people had more waste. He also saw one time there was water bottles, cases of water bottles where they didn't have the right number of water bottles in the cases. It was 23 instead of 24. And so all of those cases of water got thrown out.
Yeah, when I worked at that grocery store there, I was a produce guy, and it was You know, I mean, you get apples that have little scars on them and stuff there, it doesn't hurt the apple any, but no one's gonna buy that apple if it's got dents in it and stuff, when there's a shiny, perfect one sitting next to it, you know, so most of that stuff gets pitched, you know. I felt bad about the amount of stuff that we threw out, you know.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I worked for Portage County at the same time, and we had a deer at Lake Emily. I'd bring home. If you ever seen a big old buck eat a banana, it's hilarious. It's hilarious. They just.
Yeah, still at 198 industrial.
Ron Brooks is going to do on his farm.
No, I've heard conversations in the office about Ron Brooks and like some project that he was doing, but I haven't heard what the project
Somebody
is.
doesn't have it.
A digester.
Yeah, and it involves food waste
Okay,
as well as animal waste.
that's cool. The UW Oshkosh has a biodigester, and then a farm in Rosendale has one, but I think the farm is just newer. But the one in Oshkosh has food waste in it. So I'll have to talk to the guys and see if I can
The one in Rosedale's huge.
get info from them, because that would be cool to have something local like that. I actually went to, when I was in college, the Visman Academy, they're the ones who, in Germany, they have the technology that built the biodigesters that are in Oshkosh and Rosendale, and I got to do like a week seminar there. It was cool.
You want to continue with your report?
Yeah. As far as education outreach, radio ads have started on 92.7, 100.7, and then 102.3, which is the Bug out of Watoma. And the ads are promoting making sure you're getting your burning permit and composting yard waste instead of burning it, talking about bringing yard waste to one of our facilities, or advertising the compost bins that we sell as well. And then our yellow program flyer will be getting delivered later this week, and it's going into the papers the week of April 4th. And then lastly, I put on an Earth Day challenge with Wapaka County employees. So you get 70 Go 365 points if you go on a walk the week of Earth Day, which is like the 18th through the 22nd, and I extended it through the weekend. And you just have to pick up garbage on your walk, and then either take a picture, come into the office and show what you collected. And then they get those Go 365 points, which helps get a deduction off your health insurance costs if you get to a certain point. So that should be fun. And then for program updates, the town of Helvetia has decided to drop their curbside pickup for the time being. They were considering that. And then I submitted our MRF annual self-certification, and I've been working on our annual report to the state for recycling. So next month I should have numbers for you guys.
So they dropped the curbside pickup, will they all be coming?
So they didn't have curbside pickup. They are using the Iowa Recycling Center, but they had done a survey and were going to pursue getting curbside pickup, and then decided against that. And they didn't even table it. I think they just canceled it. So.
Do you know what their survey results were?
The survey results were for it, but then after doing like further, I think having more meetings, everyone that was for it was only for it if there was like an opt-out or a majority, and then they believed like, well, if you want the opt-out, you're probably not going to opt in. And so that was the concern, that they wouldn't have enough residents who actually wanted the service.
I don't think they'll let you opt out on that.
They will, it's just more expensive. That's like what the city of Wapaka had an optional bid to include costs, and they all were higher if you wanted an opt-out, because it's more labor intensive.
It's been on the Tunnelin agenda every month, and it's on it again tonight.
Okay.
And they did the survey, and it was 171 no's to 144 yeses.
Okay.
But I don't know if they're gonna go by the people's vote or what.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
But it's been on every month for quite a
Yeah.
while, and so I see it's on the agenda tonight. We got the results last night.
No, we don't have to talk about the loader. We did that. Our addition, our Hasway store is done. Windows came in on Wednesday. Now starting to set it all up. Benches, computer's got to get in there, the scale, just got to get all set up. So that's in the works. Business is actually starting to pick up a little bit pending the weather. So we've been seeing some pretty good days. Our Saturdays, we've been open 2 now. I worked last Saturday. It wasn't very busy, and the Saturday before was dead because we had all the snow and ice.
Yeah.
It's starting to pick up a little bit. And that should be about all I got.
Francis,
All right, all I had on there, and I guess I didn't know how to put it on the agenda exactly. It's really nothing to talk about. I sent it out in an email. Just wanted to say that an update on the GFL deal I contacted them again to see where they're at, and they said, no, we're not going to pursue that anymore right now. So that was dropped on their end. But in the future here, we need to talk about, at the end of our hauling contract, do we want to pursue something like that? Put it out there, see if anybody's interested. So that's not a discussion we should or can have today. It's not an agenda item, but I just wanted to say that is something we're going to have to talk about in the near future here to see if we want to keep doing like we're doing, or if we want to explore other options. So that's about all I had. So.
Next month's agenda then?
We can.
And you'll probably have more of an idea which way you're going on equipment.
Move to adjourn.
So you got a lot of neat stuff to share with the schools when you go see the kids from Rob Greenfield.
Yeah.
Don't forget he had a 10x5 tiny house he lived in.
Yep,
Can you imagine crawling in a 10x5 tiny house? 5.5 feet high.
All right, its agendas are,
yeah, I'll
We're,
send that his website link to everybody.
we're done, so I'm gonna end the meeting. Nice talking to everybody.